Wonderful, so wonderful is your unfailing love. Your cross has knocked in mercy over me, over me. No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no heart could fully know how glorious, how beautiful you are. Beautiful one I love, beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul must sing. Powerful, so powerful, your glory fills the skies. Your mighty works displayed for all to see, all to see. The beauty of your majesty awakes my heart to sing. How marvelous, how wonderful you are. Beautiful one I love, beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul must sing. Beautiful one I love, beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul must sing. You opened my eyes to your wonders anew. You captured my heart with this love. 'Cause nothing on earth is as beautiful as you. You opened my eyes to your wonders anew. You captured my heart with this love. 'Cause nothing on earth is as beautiful as you. Beautiful one I love, beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul must sing. Beautiful one I love, beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul must sing. Faithful love flowing down from the thorn-covered crown makes me whole, saves my soul, washes whiter than snow. Faithful love calms each fear, reaches down, dries each tear, holds my hand when I can't stand on my own. Faithful love from above came to earth to show the Father's love. And I'll never be the same, for I've seen faithful love face to face, and Jesus is his name. Faithful love is a friend just when hope seems to end. Welcome face, sweet embrace, tender touch filled with grace. Faithful love, endless power, living flame, spirit's fire, burning bright in the night, guiding my way. Faithful love from above came to earth to show the Father's love. And I'll never be the same, for I've seen faithful love face to face.
Welcome back, everyone. We come this week to Psalm 46, to the chief musician for the sons of Korah, a song upon Alma. So we've talked about the sons of Korah, right? This collection within the book of Psalms that has this noted in the superscription, a song upon Alamoth. So from what I could gather from commentary in my handy JPS Jewish translation, this is generally taken to mean maiden. So perhaps, and is a bit of conjecture, as with a lot of the words you find in these superscriptions, sometimes no one fully knows exactly what they mean. It's a best guess. So the thought here is that it's instruction to the musicians, who would be leading or reciting or singing this in temple service, perhaps alluding to a tune that starts with that word. So if that's the case, it would be sometimes, if you're telling someone how a particular song goes, you would say, well, it's to the tune of, and then you would give them some other well-known song that they can then see, how it's meant to be sung. So a song upon Alamoth, again, that's what some would take that to mean, but as I said, take that with a bit of a grain of salt. So if I had to give this psalm a title, I would personally call it God Can Fix Anything. And perhaps as we go through, you'll see why I would say that. So what are some interesting things to note about this psalm at the high level? Some things that kind of stand out that make it perhaps a bit different from others. This psalm, and I don't get this at all. It's in the JPS commentary. It's in Brother Waycaster's commentary. I don't see it. We're not told what the occasion is for this psalm, but somewhere along the way it came to be associated with the defeat of Sennacherib's army. You recall the Assyrian king who's so the Assyrians defeated the northern kingdom of Israel. They, of course, did not manage to defeat the southern kingdom of Judah. That comes decades later under Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. But they came very, very close. Sennacherib, the Assyrian king, had Jerusalem besieged. And of course, famously, his army is stricken dead in the night. And with Isaiah 37:36 specifically, there's mention of this, that this happens overnight, and then the next morning, behold, the army is destroyed. In verse 5, the second part of verse 5, it says, God shall help her in that right early. From everything I can gather, the only reason that this psalm has come to be associated with that particular event is because of the word early in verse 5. That's the traditional association. Again, both of the main things I tend to consult personally as I'm looking at these psalms, trying to wrap my head around what they may be associated with, some of the high level thoughts around them. I don't see it. To me, that's quite a stretch. But just so you know, Psalm 46 is traditionally associated with the defeat of Sennacherib's army. Take that for what it's worth. Another thing that's interesting about this one, there's a hymn that we sometimes sing that takes, it's actually an extremely simple hymn, one of those. In fact, I believe in the songbook it's one of those that's titled a folk melody. Just repeats the same words over and over. Be still and know that I am God. So if you're familiar with that, it comes from Psalm 46. It comes from the first part of verse 10 specifically. But even more interesting than that, even more interesting than the association that we have here, that's where this hymn comes from. We talk oftentimes in Bible class about context and what things mean. When they're said, where you find them in Scripture, sometimes what they're taken to mean. And this one, I think, is, like I said, the hymn just repeats that same phrase over and over. It doesn't have any other lyrics. But the tone of it, when you think about that particular hymn, be still and know that I am God, it has a very calm very serene kind of a melody to it. It seems somewhat contemplative, reflective. That is not that is not the way that it's used in the verse. It's kind of like with Amos. Amos has a phrase that he uses: "Oh, prepare to meet thy God." We use that phrase, and I've mentioned this before too. We sing an invitation song that uses that particular phrase, and we use it in the song in the sense of, take the time to reflect upon spiritual things. If you haven't obeyed the gospel, consider, you may not have all the time in the world to do it. You need to be prepared. You need to be ready for the judgment that comes, whether that's because you may not have terribly long left in this world yourself, or because who knows? You leave the service that very night, a car accident happens, or because it all ends, right? The Lord returns, and now we're all facing judgment. But prepare to meet that God, because you don't know how long you might have. You need to be ready for it. That's not the sense in which Amos uses it. Amos doesn't use that phrase in the sense of, take the time to think about things and get ready to be prepared spiritually. When Amos says it, it's game over for Israel. It's, he's coming and you're out. It's not you have time, it's you're out of time. Judgment is here, and and it's not going to go well for you. So it's a different sense in that he uses it in the way it appears in the invitation song. Be still and know that I am God. Again, when we sing the song that comes from that verse, it's a very peaceful, very calm, a very serene kind of a feel to the song. But that's not how the psalmist means it. And as we work through, hopefully we'll see why that is. So, looking at it at a high level, it's a rather simple psalm. It's a relatively short one. And we have this word that you find repeated in it, Selah, S-E-L-A-H, which, as we've discussed before, not the first time we've seen this in a psalm, is generally understood to mean that it's a pause, right? So when you see this, it's indicating, again, we talked about the superscription giving instruction to the chief musician, right? This is being sung. It's a word that indicates a pause as you're coming through. Also, it tends to handily represent a kind of a shift, a change in topic, almost like a paragraph indentation, if you will. And that helps a bit. It kind of helps to see the chunks to this particular song. So here's how I would break this down. Typically, I would go with Brother Waycaster's outline, and just to kind of tell you how he breaks it down. He has the challenge of confidence, verses 1 through 3, the secret of confidence, verses 4 through 7, and the vindication of confidence, verses 8 through 11. I would personally tend to break it down just a little bit differently. I would say verse 1, you have the psalmist setting forth the main idea. Right? So in verse 1 he says, God is a refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. And then in verses 2 through 5, he gives an example of how God can set right chaos in the natural world. And then in verses 6 through 10, you have an example or a description of how God can set right chaos that is man-made. And then the song wraps up with reiterating that main idea that you found at the beginning. So again, like I said at the beginning, if I had to give Psalm 46 a title, I would call it God Can Fix Anything. Whether it's trouble and chaos and things that have gone wrong in the natural world around us, just today, one thing that I've seen repeatedly on the news, the wildfires that are happening in Hawaii. We have things like earthquakes, tornadoes, tidal waves. There's all sorts of things. God has the capacity to fix chaos in the natural world. Also, when men cause things to go off the rails, God can fix that as well. So we noted verse 1 already. Continuing on, verse 2. And again, verses 2 through 5, in the natural world, God can fix it. Therefore, will we not fear, though the earth be removed, though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof. Selah. Again, pause. So what you have there in 2 and 3 is kind of pictured the, again, chaos. It's the idea of the unwinding, the undoing of creation and order, right? You think all the way back to Genesis 1. God takes this chaos, and out of it He forms something that is orderly, something that is purposeful, that works. So here in verses 2 and 3, you kind of get the opposite of that. You have a picture of things falling apart. Verse 4. And verse 4, kind of in the back of your mind, you have maybe, it could be, I'm not sure about this, but an allusion to how the Garden of Eden is watered. So it's kind of like chaos, or creation being undone, and then God fixing things. And again, perhaps an allusion to the Garden of Eden. Verse 4, there is a river, the streams whereof shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacles of the Most High. Most High, Elyon, so El being, I guess, the name of God, El, Yahweh being, I guess, proper names. Elohim is how it appears most of the time. So again, the very next verse, God, Elohim. Most High is Elyon. God is in the midst of her, she shall not be moved, God shall help her, and that right early. Again, as I mentioned in the introduction, some say because it says early, this has something to do with Sennacherib's army. That makes zero sense to me, as I already said. I think it's just speaking in more generic terms. But again, the world itself can come completely undone, completely unhinged. Mountains, rivers, oceans, just everything going wrong. And yet God can fix that. It's a powerful image. Continuing on, he kind of shifts gears a bit. Verses 6 through 10. What if the chaos, what if the destruction is man-made? The heathen raged, the kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, the earth melted. Again, the earth melting, chaos, disruption, things falling apart. Here, because of man's doing. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. And again, with this pause, just like we saw in the last time, it's kind of like it's setting up this picture of chaos and destruction, everything going awry, but then it shifts. You have a pause, and then God makes it right. Come, behold the works of the Lord, what desolations He hath made in the earth. Again, he's got the power. He maketh wars to cease unto the end of the earth. He breaketh the bow, He cutteth the spear in sunder, He burneth the chariot in the fire. Yet again, just as we saw earlier with the things falling apart and going wrong, when the natural world seems to be going awry, God can fix it. Here, what about the raging heathen, the people who make destruction, who are causing chaos with bows and spears and chariots? God can fix that too. Again, He's setting things right. I want to say the title, God Can Fix Anything. That's how I would title it. Now here in verse 10 we come to this well-known phrase. Again, the only one, as I read through Psalm 46, that immediately jumped out to me as sounding super familiar. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth. So again, the hymn, be still and know that I am God. Very calm, very serene, very soothing. It's a lovely hymn. I like it. In fact, I'm certainly not saying anything against it. But the way you find it here in Psalms is more the notion of be quiet. Stop resisting, stop fighting. Silence, right? It's not so much a silence as in just be quiet and listen to the babbling brook and the chirping birds. It's more silence as in put down your spears and chariots, stop even trying. Just be quiet. I'm in charge here. Not the heathen, not the armies, not the people who are causing chaos and destruction. He is going to silence them. And again, here in this particular picture, He has. Why? Because He's the one, and He's exalted among the heathen, He's exalted in the earth. So be still and know that I am God. Yes, you could take that phrase and use it. Just contemplate the beauty of nature, and let it be kind of a serene, meditative thing. But it's more in the sense of Amos that you find it here, right? silence. I'm in charge. No one and nothing else. And again, verse 11, we kind of close with the same thought that we started with. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. The one, the only one who is capable of doing, and incidentally, Lord of hosts, right? A host is an army. So Lord of hosts, he is the one who is the picture is that of a military commander, right? He is, and that's just what we've seen, right? Going back to verse 9 in particular. He is the commander of commanders, the general of generals. He's more powerful than all of them. The Lord of hosts is with us. The Lord of armies is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. The one, the only one who can fix anything. If the natural world, the mountains, the seas, the ocean, if it all falls apart and descends into chaos and disorder, he can set it right again. If you've got people in the world, the heathen, the ones who are out there raging with spears and bows and chariots, just causing chaos everywhere, he can fix that too. It's a wonderful thought. It's a great song. Again, a personal take. Nothing to do with Sennacherib specifically. And you could take the overall thought, certainly, that God can fix things and apply that to Sennacherib's defeat, sure. But to say that's the specific occasion for this psalm, I don't know about that. But that is the big thing with Psalm 46. 46, Sennacherib. But anyway, that's Psalm 46. I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at it today. Lord willing, next time we will continue on with Psalm 47. As I always say, thank you for your attention today.
Over all the earth you reign on high, every mountain stream, every sunset sky. But my one request, Lord, my only aim, is that you'd reign in me again. Lord, reign in me, reign in your power, over all my dreams. In my darkest hour, you are the Lord of all I am. So won't you reign in me again? Over every thought, over every word, may my life reflect the beauty of my Lord. 'Cause you mean more to me than any earthly thing. So won't you reign in me again? Lord, reign in me, reign in your power, over all my dreams. In my darkest hour, you are the Lord of all I am. So won't you reign in me again? Lord, reign in me, reign in your power, over all my dreams. In my darkest hour, you are the Lord of all I am. So won't you reign in me again? You are the Lord of all I am. So won't you reign in me?